What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. You're watching our SEC channel. We are heading into week 2 and it's time for updated power rankings in the SEC. Definitely saw some movement this week. Number 14, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt stays at the bottom. They beat Alabama A&M. There's just not much to take away from that game. And then you go and look at Hawaii. Stanford beat Hawaii worse than Vanderbilt beat Hawaii. So that's kind of bad news. I expected Vanderbilt to be a better team than Stanford this year. But anyways, Vanderbilt clearly at the bottom here. Number 13, South Carolina. Not a good performance against North Carolina. The offensive line was just so bad in this game. And if they don't get better, they are not going to make it through the SEC. It's going to be a really rough season. They had a lot of injuries as well, so things are not looking good here. I was not high on South Carolina this year. A lot of people thought that I had something against them or whatever because I picked this team to go 6-6. But honestly, I don't know if this team can even get to 6-6 without some improved play. You look at the interceptions that they got. Their secondary made a lot of big plays, and they still got beat the way that they did. It comes back to the offensive line. No run game, no pass protection for Spencer Rattler. That has got to improve as South Carolina is going to be a decent team this year. Florida's kind of the same story. Really, it was all about the offensive line. They did play a really good front in Utah, so maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. And that's ultimately why I've got Florida ahead of South Carolina, because they did have to play a really good Utah team. And maybe North Carolina's really good. It's early. We don't really know all of that, of course. But Florida, there were some bright spots in this game. They had so many mistakes as well. So you look at that game, and if they don't make all those mistakes, they actually probably would have been pretty competitive against Utah. And so that's why I have Florida ahead of South Carolina. But both of those teams, a lot of work to do. And again, specifically on the offensive line. Number 11, Missouri. They got a pretty easy win. A little bit of a slow start for them. Not a whole lot to take away from that game. We will see when they play. Remember, they play Kansas State next week. Also, they play Middle Tennessee this week. I'll be curious to see how they compare against Middle Tennessee to, say, Alabama. And I would say we can learn a lot about both teams from that game, but we're going to learn a lot about Alabama when they play Texas, of course. Number 10, Mississippi State, another team that started off kind of slow, but they did take care of business at the end of the day, getting a win this past week. I'm not sure where this team's going to wind up. I think they have potential to be pretty good. I mean, they've got a lot of production coming back, but you look at the SEC, it's going to be tough. And talent-wise, I think they are near the bottom of this conference. So I've got them at 10 for now. We'll see how they look in the next few weeks. Number 9 is Auburn. Some positives and negatives. The offense looked pretty good under Hugh Freeze first game. Used Robbie Ashford in the red zone, and he's going to be a weapon for this team, even though he's not the starting quarterback. Defense, when they got pressure, they were really good, but they did give up some big plays on the ground. Run defense was not great. They're going to go up against a really good rushing offense in Cal this week. Could be a tough matchup for them. So definitely a team that's better than last year. And we saw that offensive line was so much better than last year, but still some question marks. So I don't think Auburn is in that top half of teams right now. Can they get there? Potentially. We'll see. Number 8, Arkansas. Arkansas, another team that got an easy win in week 1. Run game. Where was the run game? That was something that was missing for them. KJ Jefferson looked pretty good. Defense looked pretty good. But we need to see more, and that is the thing with all these teams. We've got to see them play quality competition. Kentucky, also a team that started kind of slow. Devin Leary didn't look great, but overall the defense was solid. It's going to take some time for some of these teams with all these new players. Ray Davis was strong in this game. He had 112 yards rushing. So, again, we'll see when they play some tougher competition. Number 6, LSU. They played some tough competition. That's for sure. Florida State, really impressive in this matchup. And so for LSU, I still think they have potential to be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in this conference. But based off of what we saw in week 1, I did have to drop them. Now, the first half was good. They looked pretty good in the first half. But the way they fell apart in the second half, that was pretty rough. And so I did drop them down to number 6. This is a team that's got some work to do. I think depth is going to be a concern for them. Offensive line was not as good as I think many people expected it to be, or maybe that was just Florida State's front we'll have to wait and see. Secondary is going to be a problem for them. So LSU still has a chance to be good, but right now we've got them at number 6. Number 5, Ole Miss. They came out of the gates firing on all cylinders, scored a lot of points quickly, like you would expect with Lane Kiffin. But it was Mercer. Got to see more. And then number 4 is Texas A&M. Same thing. Looked really good against New Mexico, but it was New Mexico. Although I would say the offense looked much more explosive, more aggressive, and I think that's the Bobby Petrino effect. And Connor Wigman looked really good. Noah Thomas looked like he could be an All-American type wide receiver. So even though it was New Mexico, I still look at this game and I can take away some things that tell me that Texas A&M is going to be a different team this year. It doesn't mean they're going to go 10-2, but they're going to be different than they were last year. They're going to be better, and specifically offensively, I think they're going to be much improved. Number 3, Georgia. A slow start against UT Martin, but it's still Georgia, and they still completely dominated this game with their defense, and they got it going in the second half a little bit. So let's see how they do against a better team. They're going to get, I think, Ball State this week, so we're still not going to learn a whole lot about the Bulldogs. Number 2, Alabama. Played Middle Tennessee. Looked really good, but again, it was Middle Tennessee. Milroe looked pretty solid. We'll see what he can do when they face a tougher team. We'll see what they do against Texas. Texas has a good defense. Their defense looked really strong in the season opener for them, so we'll see what Alabama can do up against that a very good Texas defense, and that'll be a real challenge for them. I think that game probably winds up being pretty low scoring. 2 really good defenses going at it. And then number 1 is Tennessee. I thought Tennessee looked like the best team in the SEC in week 1. Yes, it was Virginia, but still, the way their defensive front looked, they were living in the backfield all game long, pressuring the quarterback, stuffing the run, just something we didn't see a lot from them last year. And then on the offensive side, I think Milton's going to be just fine. Receivers, even they had some plays. They had several plays in this game that they missed on, whether it was an inaccurate pass or a drop ball. Just imagine how bad this could have been. And you would expect them to get better at those types of things as the season goes along. The run game was really, really good for Tennessee. So that was something, a bright spot. How bad is Virginia? It's hard to say, but it is a Power 5 team. So I give them a lot more credit for beating Virginia than I give Alabama for beating Middle Tennessee or Texas A&M for beating New Mexico. It could be that Virginia is just that bad and I'm overrating Tennessee. We will find out over the next few weeks. And that's again, I know I keep repeating myself. We just don't know a whole lot about these teams at this point. Even LSU, we don't know a lot about, because we saw a really good team in the first half, and then it just kind of fell apart in the second half. Which team are they? Are they that team from the first half, and they're going to get it going, and they're going to be a top 10 team? Or are they going to be that team in the second half, and they're going to lose 3 or 4 games? It's just impossible to know at this point with just one game to look at. And again, most of these teams playing cupcake games. But we'll learn more as the season goes along, and these rankings will change, of course, each week. Would love to get your thoughts, your rankings. Let me know how you'd rank these teams down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.